Narcissism, a battle between appearance and being. How many times I've seen people admiring themselves and looking at themselves with fascination when they see themselves in the mirror. I mean, that's basically narcissistic behavior. And I say to myself, oh, please give me a break. Now, this is written by a nurse. She says ego and superego, two psychological terms that come to characterize the human soul. An ego represents the conscious and reality, and a superego represents consciousness and the ideal self. Are we talking about concepts that walk a tightrope with a unique safety net, or everyday convenient masks, or better of an ego that dies and a superego that feeds on its flesh? Are we simply talking about a mirror that no longer reflects images, only a thirst for applause? By association, the ancient Greek myth of Narcissus, a handsome young man from Boeotia, that's in the middle of Greece, who fell deeply in love with the reflection of his idol, of his himself, in the waters of a spring, and in his attempt to kiss his face, was led to his death, after falling into the river and he drowned. Yet another version of the myth is that he perished because of this unfulfilled love for himself. This is how the term narcissism was born, to describe a personality disorder in which the individual develops an excessive interest in the self, appearance, and the image it projects to others, a disorder in which itself becomes the object of love. Freud, in 1914, through his work on Narcissism, an introduction, talked about a conflict between the psychic energy invested in the ego and that invested in the objects. When one prevails, the other weakens. Dr. Grunberger, in 1979, said, on the other hand, argued that narcissism must be considered as a force whose energy participates in the construction of the ego. No, I don't agree with that. Now, we conclude, therefore, that it's not only a pathological condition, but can also take dimensions of a healthy state, being a creative condition for the synthesis of the I, me, myself, and I, and using self-love as a necessary prerequisite for the synthesis of bonds. On the other hand, we observe, of course, being overwhelmed by this love, resulting in the loss of interest in fellow human beings, of course. Its characteristics are self-centeredness, megalomania, arrogance, lack of empathy. The narcissist often reacts with anger or shame to the criticism leveled at him. He exaggerates his important character, his achievements, and his talents. He constantly seeks attention, while he's greatly possessed by the feeling of jealousy. He finds it difficult to bond emotionally and trust others, and is often characterized by the tendency to exploit the people around him for his own benefit, resulting in alienation and increased loneliness. Regarding the causes, we notice that childhood and early adolescence play the most important roles here. Excessive tolerance and intense rewarding of the child by the parents, as well as the lack of love and intense criticism of bad behavior by themselves, especially contribute to the development of narcissistic behaviors. The child experiences these situations as an intense traumatic experience, a psychological trauma, and develops such behaviors as a defense to what he experiences. In addition to the social environment in which the person grew up, biological factors such as genes, about 50% play a part in that, as well as cultural factors such as today's projected media standards also play an important role. Although it's difficult for people with narcissistic personality disorder to ask for help due to their difficulty in identifying and accepting the existing problem in themselves, because they think they're perfect, the therapeutic part is mainly aimed at obtaining a realistic image of oneself and others. Although all approaches to psychology are effective due to the uniqueness that each advocate's research show that the most widespread for this particular disorder are psychoanalysis and psychotherapy. So in an age that oscillates between appearance and being, I wonder if it's worth continuing to run every day in the pursuit of perfection, or if we prefer to focus on all that makes us unique, on our particularities, and weaknesses, to try to accept our human nature and feel whole, because everything starts from within us and ends right there. Really, who will you choose to face in your mirror every morning? And this I've translated from a Greek article. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.